Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes, that's right, you read the title and you know exactly what it is that I'm reviewing. So yes, this, if not, one of probably everybody's top favorite hilarious Disney animated features, this being a buddy picture comedy animated film from Disney, you know, and yeah. And for me, because of course, I'm a huge fan of this one Disney animated feature from the early 2000s, and, you know, because the fact that this came out just a year before I was born, and yeah, this one Disney animated feature coming out around the time when the early 2000s rolled in, Disney animation on the big screen was kind of going downhill. And I'm sure you know the story on that. Just, yeah. You know, the fact because, you know, there were reports saying that 2D was outdated, and, well, when computer animation was stepping in, not just with Pixar, well, you know, say DreamWorks and, you know, enter Blue Sky, just, yeah. By that point, computer animation was starting to take over and dominate the animation industry. And of course, that's not the case on 2D being outdated. It's just the fact that most of the 2D animated films not having that much of a strong story, you know? But at the same time, not every single one of them, just a few, but most of them not really being god-awful. And this one for sure. This not being a disappointment whatsoever. And as the years passed, it has grown a cult following. This animated Disney film from 2000 has its fans, and me being one of them, and I'm sure the same goes for a majority of you, just, yeah. So that's right, I am finally reviewing, from 2000, The Emperor's New Groove. Yes, The Emperor's New Groove. Oh boy, man, I tell ya. I have some fond memories when watching this movie. I do recall because, yeah, like, you know, I want to say, like, one of the first times I had seen/watched The Emperor's New Groove. Well, for one thing, when I was very young, I didn't, like, say, have a VHS copy, nor a DVD copy just yet. But I do remember, like, you know, watching this on TV, most notably Disney Channel, and having the storybook version of The Emperor's New Groove. I remember my mom reading that to me. And, well, I had seen The Emperor's New School, and even when, you know, of course, I did eventually, you know, get a DVD copy of The Emperor's New Groove, I had a fun time, like, with the bonus features and one of the DVD games that I'm sure you know which one I'm referring to. And when Kronk's New Groove happened, yeah. But yeah, looking back on The Emperor's New Groove and doing some rewatching on it, and even, you know, watching people's reactions to the film on YouTube, oh yeah. I would say, yeah, The Emperor's New Groove's a very popular thing to react to for those doing movie reactions on YouTube. Yeah, The Emperor's New Groove being one of them. That and, like, say, next to the Zucker Brothers movies, those kind of comedy films, you know. And, yeah, some really good comedy films like The Emperor's New Groove and so on, yeah. I mean, The Emperor's New Groove, there's no doubt about it, you know, still holding up. And it's definitely a Disney animation gem from the early 2000s. There's this, there's Atlantis the Lost Empire, Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet, the list goes on, and, well, even Brother Bear. So, yeah, and, you know, because 2000 was a big year for Disney. The fact that, you know, Disney now entering in the 21st century, and The Emperor's New Groove being one of their first of the 3 films to be released. There was this, Dinosaur, and Fantasia 2000. Although technically Fantasia 2000, it came out in between, say, 99 and 2000. Yeah, because I know about this, and I'm sure you do too. But yeah, point being is that, yeah, The Emperor's New Groove being one of those, for Disney's start in the new century. And, well, like I said, unfortunately, at that point, hand-drawn animation on the big screen was starting to die down. Not because it was outdated, as I just established, yeah. But, yeah, still, The Emperor's New Groove, and rewatching it, and, with its hilarious, memorable moments, its memorable characters, we can quote any single line from this movie that we know so well, right? So, yeah, what more do I have to say? The Emperor's New Groove, a Disney animation masterpiece from the early 2000s, without a doubt. Okay, so, with that out of the way, my first thoughts and such to say on the film. Now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Arrogant young Emperor Kuzco is transformed into a llama by his power-hungry advisor, the devious diva, Yzma. Stranded in the jungle, Kuzco's only chance to get back home and reclaim the high life rests with a good-hearted peasant named Pacha. Together, they must return Kuzco to the throne before Yzma tracks them down and finishes him off, because she's going after Kuzco, of course, but yeah. Okay, so with that out of the way, now, as I sometimes do, let's talk about some background, because I think by now you guys probably know the background, but still, I'll still talk about it, and, long story short, yeah. So, Roger Allers, who, fresh off of the success of being one of the co-directors of The Lion King, right next to, say, Rob Minkoff, he wanted to, for what he wanted to do next for Disney. Another Disney animated film he had in consideration was doing a animated film on Incan culture and just like what would be brought into this, like the inspirations, and set in Mesoamerican. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah. He pitched this to Michael Eisner, and Michael Eisner, who at the time was CEO, he was more than happy to allow Roger Allers to do whatever he wanted, especially because after the success of The Lion King. So, Roger Allers, he took inspiration and, did a research trip to, say, Machu Picchu in Peru, and incorporating the elements of pre-Columbian art, combining it all and for what the movie was to be like. And originally, because keep in mind, guys, The Emperor's New Groove was entirely different. It wasn't even called The Emperor's New Groove. It would have been something entirely different. Still being set in Mesoamerican and with the stuff I just mentioned, Incan culture and, with the research trips that Roger Allers took and such, yeah. Originally, it was going to be called Kingdom of the Sun, Roger Allers had everything laid out and planned for what the film was going to be like, and it was going to be less of a hilarious comedy film like what the final film would turn out, yeah. I mean, I think it's obvious that, yeah, because probably kind of going, I guess, the same level of dark tone and such, like The Lion King. Probably, just, yeah, more likely. And already, the film had its voice cast, and with its story, and with the animation, and that they got Sting to be a part of this, and him being more happy to be a part of this because him loving Disney and, his involvement in this film, writing 6 songs, and, some of the voice cast that was a part of this, 2 of them, most notably, who were there from the start, David Spade and the late legendary Eartha Kitt. They were there from the start. In fact, for Eartha Kitt, Yzma, she was there from the beginning. Like, nothing changed with Yzma. She was the exact character, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that we all know and love so well. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, because Yzma is one of my mom's favorite Disney villains, right next to, say, Dr. Facilier and Ursula. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah. yeah, we had Eartha Kitt and David Spade. We also had, originally, Owen Wilson and Harvey Fierstein, and there would have been a love story, and of course we would have had the character that David Spade voices, who originally was named Monko, before Kuzco. Owen Wilson was the original voice of Pacha. We still had the name Pacha, yeah. From the start, and Monko turning into a llama, and originally Monko was not to speak when he was turned into a llama, and also the fact that Monko and Pacha look like twins, they look identical and such, yeah, and them swapping places, and as I mentioned, a love story happening with the characters, and a girl that each of them that they would fall in love with, and the actress who was going to originally voice her, I think 2 of them, yeah, because I think there were going to be 2 female characters. I'll remember to put their names in a text, yeah, so, and Harvey Fierstein, as I mentioned, Harvey Fierstein was originally going to be the voice of Yzma's sidekick. Before Kronk, the sidekick was completely different, a tiny stoned character, who's literally a stoned figure, so, yeah. And the songs were written from Sting. Everything was planned and they proceeded. But at a certain point, those at Disney, something was not clicking for them. They didn't like the results that were nearing completion and such, and everything had to be changed. Because poor Roger Allers, because when at a certain point he knew that what he had hoped for, what he had envisioned for this Disney animated feature was not going to be what he thought it was, he resigned. He stepped down. I wouldn't say resigned. He stepped down being director and left completely. And by the way, the co-director alongside with Roger Allers is Mark Dendell. Yeah, I am pronouncing his last name right. Whom, he was chosen to be co-director with Roger Allers, and fresh off of being the director of Warner Brothers' Cats Don't Dance. Yeah, and I think it's obvious, and when Mark Dendell took full charge, being the director, what he would bring to the final film, it's obvious. And not to mention, there's some, Looney Tunes quality to the finished film. And, so Mark Dendell, along with, say, the late Randy Fulmer, I hope I'm saying his last name right, and one of the writers who would become one of the writers for Finding Nemo, they stepped in, and they had to redo the whole thing, make a new story, and they managed to succeed. No longer being called Kingdom of the Sun, this time being called the name of the name that we know so well, The Emperor's New Groove. David Spade and Eartha Kitt, they would remain on the film. They would still be voicing their characters. Monko would now be called Kuzco. Owen Wilson was replaced with John Goodman voicing Pacha. The sidekick of Yzma would be replaced with Kronk. And who would voice Kronk? Well, until I mention his name in a few minutes, but yeah. And as for Sting, well, he was annoyed by this with the big changes to the film, but he settled down and he was still more than happy to be a part of it. And only 3 of his songs, mainly 2, did make their way into the picture, and he sang only 1 of them. But until I get there on the songs, yeah. But yeah, in fact, also, when they were making progress this time, redoing the whole thing, but I mean, still, it was still gonna be like what was originally intended, set in Mesoamerican and with the inspirations that would be put into this Disney flick, and so on, yeah. Well, originally it was gonna be released in the summer of 2000, but it was pushed back to, November of 2000, and Dinosaur took that place in the summer. And not to mention that, if anybody knows this as well, the fact that this came out the same year as another Mesoamerican animated film from DreamWorks. Yeah, The Road to El Dorado, because this is technically another Ants / A Bug's Life thing. But Disney, they were not going to put up with, Jeffrey Katzenberg's game, of competing with whatever Disney was coming out with, and the fact that DreamWorks was coincidentally doing the same thing. So yeah, Well, the fact that Road to El Dorado came out earlier that year, and as for The Emperor's New Groove, it came out very late that year and such, so yeah. But anyways, the final results of The Emperor's New Groove, and, it wasn't that well received when it first came out. It was, I would say, if I'm correct, a mixed bag, but as the years passed, it would grow a cult following, the movie would have its fans, and even to this day, so it's great to see. Alright, so that's it on background, and best I can do. So I think I did pretty good on talking about the background, in my way. Alright, so getting into the film itself, because yes, I love the way this movie opens and with the Walt Disney Pictures logo, because, very sad, dramatic music or something, and there's a thunderstorm, and, well, we see a llama who's very sad, and we hear a narrator who happens to be Kuzco, voiced by David Spade, and the narrator pointing out that llama is him, and he was once a human being, and, was a ruler and such, and, him saying that he was the nicest guy and, people ruining his life for no reason. Well, when we find out what Kuzco's really like, and to think that we're kind of rooting for this character, he's one of the main characters, but so. Kuzco's the narrator explaining that, going back further, and how this happened, him becoming a llama, but going too back and we see him as a baby. But then, then the logo shows, the credits, and we get one of the first songs, Perfect World, sung by the one and only Tom Jones. And we, of course, get Kuzco, him being an emperor, and everybody doing anything by his command and by the snap of his fingers. And so funny, because, being blow-dried or something, because, fanned, or, getting a drink of water, and just, and even when, butler, chef, theme song guy. And thus, we have the theme song guy, that Tom Jones, whom Tom Jones voices and such, he's having his groove, Kuzco, but then at one point, his groove is interrupted, to him, rudely, by, well, he's credited as the old man, voiced by the late legendary John Fielder, aka the original voice of Piglet, And if you couldn't recognize his voice right away, so the old man is thrown out of the window. I'm sorry, but you threw off the Emperor's Groove, golly. And his groove proceeds, and then after it finishes, and then, boom, baby! And he has to choose his future bride, and he's a jerk to he's acting like a jerk to when picking his bride, and you have a personality, a great personality, golly. And then we come to the people that Kuzco says ruined his life. The first one being Pacha. And Pacha, as I said, being voiced by, now, John Goodman. And, the fact that John Goodman, he did this just 1 year before being in Disney and Pixar's Monsters Incorporated. The early 2000s, the start of the early 2000s being a big year for John, doing two big animated features from Disney and Pixar. So anyways, so Pacha's to meet with Kuzco about something. He was asked by Kuzco to see him, and Pacha helping out the old man, and the old man warning him not to throw off the Emperor's Groove. Beware the groove. And then there's nothing to indicate on Pacha being mean or anything like that. And with what Kuzco's describing, being the narrator. And the other person we see that Kuzco labels ruining his life is Yzma. Yes, Yzma, again, being voiced by the late legendary Eartha Kitt. And Yzma, whom is the Emperor's advisor, living proof that the dinosaurs once roamed the Earth and such. God. And we also get Yzma's right-hand man, because every year she gets a new man by her side, helping her out and such. And this year's model is Kronk. And Kronk, now, being, because yeah, like I said, sidekicks were changed for the character of Yzma when it went from, say, Kingdom of the Sun to the Emperor's New Groove. So yeah, now it's Kronk, and Kronk being voiced by the one and only beloved Patrick Warburton. Yes, we all love Kronk, don't we not? Because yeah, definitely Kronk is one of the fan favorites and most beloved sidekick characters of the Disney animated films, without doubt. So yes. And right away you can tell that Kronk, he's kind of dumb, but not really, just, you know, his personality and what he's like, yeah, you can tell right away, because what Kronk is like. So yeah, not very smart at times, but he can be, just, yeah, you get my point. And Kuzco showing up, and, well, because, like, he's a bit unhappy with Yzma, and even when at one point he's memorized by Yzma's wrinkles and something stuck in her teeth, and, Kronk saying something to Kuzco, and, you know, no touchy, and Kuzco, out of nowhere, fires Yzma, and giving her the specific details on her and being let go and so on, just golly. And this coming out of nowhere for Yzma, yeah, and her starting to grow furious towards Kuzco, and yeah. So after that, and you know, who's sitting in my chair? Oh, I know, it's Yzma. Very good, Kronk. Hey, go get it, just... So after that, Pacha enters, and Kuzco needs some help from Pacha. What is it specifically? Well, the fact that Kuzco wants to know where Pacha lives in this quiet, peaceful village, and up top on this hill, this mountain and such, is where Pacha and his family lives, and asking Pacha, like, where the sun hits and, you know, the mountains singing, you know, those details he gives to Pacha. And when Pacha, just that face he makes, I think that kind of became a meme, I want to say. I know I've seen that on social media, Facebook, you know what I'm talking about, just like the face he makes, you know. And yeah, when Pacha points that out to Kuzco, where the sunlight specifically hits on the hills and such, you know, well, that's when Kuzco announces to Pacha for his 18th birthday, which is tomorrow, that he will have his very own vacation house built right there on top of the village. Kuzco-topia, yeah, and having a pool and so on, and yeah, apparently this coming out of nowhere for Pacha, and the fact that by tomorrow, on his birthday, the entire village will be obliterated. The huts, the houses, they will be destroyed in preparation for Kuzco-topia, yeah. And Pacha, flabbergasted, and just like, yeah, and asking Kuzco, where are we going to live? Don't know, don't care. Golly. And just, yeah, it doesn't take us that long to see that Kuzco, pardon my French, but it's true, he's an asshole. But the fact that, look, the fact that he's only 18 years old, like, you know, just cut him some slack, the fact that he's 18, and, you know, the fact that he is an emperor, just, yeah. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, for some people, it wouldn't take us that long to realize that, you know, obviously somewhere, very later on in the movie, Kuzco is going to have a change of heart. And if it's not obvious, and yeah, but we haven't got there quite yet. So yeah, and Kuzco, you know, making it clear to Pacha, when I give the word, your little town will go bye-bye. Bye-bye. Boo-hoo. Yeah, and everything going Kuzco's way, or so he thinks, and yeah, meanwhile down in Yzma's lair, being furious about Kuzco firing her and taking out her anger on destroying stone busts of Kuzco, you know, and Kronk mentions something on why not just get rid of the actual Kuzco, and that's when it occurs to her that she will get rid of the Kuzco. Get rid of him, and thus she'll take over the throne. And then, well, one of the most famous parts of the film, memorable moments, I should say, to the secret lab, and pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever! Why do we even have that lever? Slapping a gator and whimpering like a dog, and yeah. And basically, it's a roller coaster making its way to the secret lab. Please remain seated and keep your arms and legs at all times. And Kronk's enjoying it, but not Yzma. Just, yeah. You know, it's obvious that probably, yeah, after the movie came out, everybody wanted to have that actually be a Disney attraction. Right? Just, yeah, anyways. So they make their way, they get in their lab wardrobe, they do a high five, and yeah, Yzma plotting on how to get rid of Kuzco by, I'll turn him into a flea, and I'll put Kuzco as a flea in a box, then I'll put that box in another box, and another box, and I'll mail that box to myself, and when it arrives, I'll smash it with a hammer! It's brilliant, brilliant! Genius, I say! And knocking over a potion bottle, or, to save on postage, I'll just poison him with this! And, yeah, then, later on, it's dinner time! And thus, Yzma, Kronk set up dinner, they invite Kuzco over, and, Kronk really thinks that, yeah, they're gonna have dinner time, and he made salad, he made his famous spinach puffs, and, yeah. But Yzma, making it clear to Kronk that they're not going to have dinner because, by luring Kuzco, and because the whole thing of poisoning him. Oh, right, the poison for Kuzco, the poison specifically chosen to kill Kuzco. Oh, yeah, I mean, when Kuzco shows up and, you know, so no hard feelings on you being let go. And Yzma keeping it together, none whatsoever. And then Yzma turning to Kronk, you know, telling him to get the Emperor's drink. Oh, right. And we see Kronk just, like, calmly and quietly, you know, filling up the poison in the cup and such, and it makes a little explosion. The fact that Kuzco didn't, like, twitch or something, just like by the explosion, just like, you know, just, and Kuzco is smelling something burning, and Kronk making an excuse like, you know, my spinach puffs, dashing, and after that, Kronk can't remember which cup has the poison, so now he has to fill up the poison such, like in all 3 cups, and then when they finally make a toast to the Emperor, long live Kuzco, and Kronk telling Yzma, don't drink it. So Yzma, she pours the cup in a cactus plant, and Kronk, because it's funny, because, you know, because he's not actually drinking it, because it's like pouring down on his shoulder. But yeah, Kuzco proceeding on drinking it. Tasty. His head, you know, falls down, but then he surprisingly wakes up, like, just, and, well, they're confused, like, he's not dead, and, well, that's when Kuzco starts to transform, and, like, we see ears and his neck growing, and sure enough, yeah, he's turning and does so. Turn into a llama. And, of course, us, the audience, quickly realizing that that potion was for Kuzco to transform into a llama. It wasn't poison. And you would easily miss this, right? Because as we saw, Yzma poured her cup into a cactus plant. Well, when Kuzco was turning into a llama, and when we cut back to Yzma, if you pay attention, you could probably easily miss it, but yeah. My point being is that the cactus plant turned into a llama as well. A cactus plant in the shape of a llama. Did anybody not realize that? I know I didn't the first few times, but yeah. You know, and that's the thing. Some movies, like even if it's animated films, you'll sometimes miss and not realize the attention to detail and the fact that sometimes they can be some hilarious jokes. That being one of them, the cactus plant in the shape of a llama. It's amazing that even the cactus plant, you know, was affected by the potion, so yeah. And Yzma tried to get Kronk to, by demonstrating using 2 pieces of broccoli, you know, hit in the head, more broccoli, and yeah, using the bowl that has the broccoli and smacking Kuzco on the head unconsciously, and just, yeah. And then realizing that the potion is not poison, it's llama. And Yzma ordering Kronk to take him out of town and finish the job. What about dinner? You know, because he still wants to have dinner, but, you know, then when asking, what about dessert? And, well, Yzma, she's okay with having dessert, and, yeah, a quick cup of coffee. Then take him out and finish the job. And thus, after dessert, Kronk proceeds by finishing the job, taking the body of Kuzco in a bag and disposing him. And Kronk, like, having his own theme song and just, you know, and fun fact about that, Warburton actually had to sign a contract to use the theme song that he made, he improvised. Like, if you know about this, that's unbelievable. But, and, even Kuzco, his narration and him commenting on what Kronk's doing is funny. And even when Kronk, like, he's by this wall and two peasants are passing by and and that's a loop, obviously, on just like, and then he finally disposes Kuzco in a river, and mission accomplished. But then he realizes that it's heading its way down a waterfall from the palace, and he's like, you could see the look in his face, like, should he be doing this? Like, he should do something. And then out of nowhere, we see his shoulder angel and shoulder devil. Yeah. And you saw the thumbnail, And of course, Patrick Warburton, it's obvious that Patrick Warburton is voicing those two. Well, duh, because they're Kronk, So anyways, each of them telling them on what he should do and such, and the shoulder devil, like, insulting the shoulder angel, and like, I'm gonna lead you down a path that rocks, and so on. And like, Kronk just then brings up something on where then the shoulder devil's like, that'll work, because of what to do with Kuzco, the situation of Kuzco in a bag, and thus Kronk, rightfully so, he saves Kuzco from going down that waterfall, the camera panning out way further, and we see a chimp and a bug. And Kuzco's like, what's with the chimp and the bug? Can we get back to me? And Kronk, well, because he saved Kuzco, he's got to figure out something else on how to dispose of him. But then at one point, he's walking down some stairs, and he accidentally steps on a cat's tail, and this causes Kronk to tumble, and Kuzco in the bag lands on Pacha's cart. Yes, so with that, and unfortunately Kronk losing Kuzco, and not able to catch up to Pacha, and, oh no, this is not good. I hope that doesn't come back to haunt me. And it does, yeah. It never fails for some things that happen to us that could sometimes come back and haunt us. Yeah. That's life for you, but anyways. So Pacha, making this long journey, heading back to the village, and when he arrives, well, we see Kronk's family. We have Pacha's... Did I say Kronk? Well, I don't want to get the names mixed up, so don't start me. Pacha, his family. We see his family when he finally arrives, and we can see that, yeah, because the village that Pacha lives in, the fact that he lives up top of the hill of the village, it's a very peaceful, cozy village. And, yeah, Pacha's family. Now to get to them. Pacha's family, his wife, Chicha, if I'm pronouncing that right. Help me out if I might be, but and again, me sometimes. Being voiced by Wendy Malick. Yeah, she's a great actress, great person. And Pacha's family, Chaka, the son. No, the daughter, sorry. Tipo.'s the son. Yeah. Tipo being voiced by young Eli Russell Lennox, if I'm pronouncing that last name right. And Chaka being voiced by young Kellyanne Kelso. Yeah, I think I've got that right. And they were like measuring each other, and they were happy to see their daddy come home, and yeah. And we could tell right away that Pacha's family, his kids and wife, they're like, this is a great family, and the fact they're expecting a third child, and this marks the first time, yeah. I'm not sure, like, say, on The Little Mermaid 2, but this definitely goes for The Emperor's New Groove, being one of the first ever Disney films to have a character pregnant. So, yeah, that's great to see. So, Pacha's wife is currently pregnant with their third child, will be arriving very soon, and she's doing perfectly well. And, yeah, like... And the kid, like, there's one moment where the kids want to stay, like, they don't want to go to bed, but Pacha finds a way for them to go to bed, like, we're just going to stay up and tell how much we love each other. Yeah, and that gets them to go to bed. And Pacha's wife asking him if, what did the Emperor say? And Pacha, he doesn't really know what to say, especially after what actually happened, so he makes an excuse saying that the Emperor couldn't see him, and Pacha's wife, like, this is where, yeah, the fire rages in her, but she handles it very well, just, like, wishing that she can give a piece of her mind to Kuzco and just, like, I gotta go wash something. Like, that's a great way for her to handle this, and it's, because Pacha's wife, isn't she not one of the top best, like, female/wife characters of anything Disney? Oh, come on. I think you would agree. Just, yeah. I think so, in my opinion, and I'm sure you would, too. But anyways, and Pacha, he goes back outside to, their llama to be settled up and such, for the night. And Pacha having a moment to himself. And then out of nowhere, the film is paused, from the projector, Kuzco popping in and, hi, I just want to remind you that this movie is about me, not him, and using a red marker, just, writing an X over Pacha and circling him in the bag. And, is it just me, or if it's not obvious as of now, that I guess you could say Kuzco at that time was Disney's very own Deadpool? If you think about it, and if you know, you know. Yeah, so even when I first learned, it first occurred to me when I saw something like this on social media. I think, Facebook. And I remember sharing that to my mom, and boy, did she find that hilarious, because that didn't occur to her either. And I'm sure the same goes for some of you who I'm bringing up the first time. Anyways. But yeah, after that, the movie resumes. Kuzco regains consciousness, and, when Kuzco speaks, and no touchy. Demon Llama! Demon Llama where? And when Pacha quickly realizes that it's Kuzco in llama form, and, Pacha having Kuzco, do this, and, when Kuzco does so, he realizes, and when looking in his reflection in a pool of water, and it's my beautiful face, and just, he's having a crisis, I guess you could say, and wondering why this happened. And he pins this on Pacha at first, saying that, Pacha kidnapped him and turned him into a llama. First of all, how could Pacha have turned Kuzco into a llama? And besides, Kuzco does point out, on making his way back to the palace and ordering Yzma with her laboratory to turn him back into a llama. So surely, what? Kuzco immediately thought that somehow Pacha broke into Yzma's laboratory, even though Kuzco and the movie itself doesn't establish that, but yeah. And Kuzco ordering Pacha to help him go back to the palace, but Pacha right there, he's not going to. And rightfully so, why? Because Pacha, he's not going to let Kuzco build his summer house right where the village is. Destroy the village and in place for his summer house. Build your summer house somewhere else. I won't take you back unless you change your mind. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. If Kuzco would happen to change his mind, then yes, they would proceed to the palace. But Kuzco, his response on this, come in closer. Come here. I don't make deal with peasants! Knowing Kuzco at first, So now, he has to go through the jungle himself and make his way back to the palace, but Pacha is being serious when he tells Kuzco that it's a bad idea to go in the jungle by himself, especially on account of him being a llama. But Kuzco, being a jerk, of course, la 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 la, I'm not listening. Ooh, I'm still not listening. Okay, fine, go. No Kuzco, no Kuzcotopia. And there's a quick moment where Pacha, he looks back, and Kuzco is gone in plain sight, and we can tell, I'm sure for a lot of us, that Pacha is going to end up going after Kuzco, because if we couldn't tell already, because we can, Pacha, he is a wholehearted, kind person, a human being, and even though he does find, rightfully so, Kuzco a jerk, he still has heart, and, helping out Kuzco, and that's what he does later. But Kuzco making his way through the jungle, and, the jungle being a scary place, and Kuzco trying to keep it together, and, well, when he sees some things in the jungle, like glowing eyes or a bug getting eaten by a spider, and when he encounters a squirrel, which he would name Bucky. Yes, and Bucky the squirrel, being voiced by Bob Bergen. He even voiced the fly stuck in the web, help me, and when he's eaten by the spider. So, So Bucky offering him an acorn. Oh, for me? Get lost, Bucky, and then Kuzco falls down, and, well, he finds himself surrounded by sleeping jaguars. Bucky steps in again, using a needle and making a animal balloon, and, he's gonna pop it and wake up the jaguars. When he does so, well, the jaguars, they didn't wake up. Apparently, because that doesn't get them to wake up. But when Kuzco realizes they didn't wake up, and he goes, "Ha!" That's when, the jaguars then wake up, and thus they chase after him up to a cliff, and even a little baby jaguar pops in. So so it seems like, Kuzco is in trouble, but not for long. When Pacha steps in, swinging like Tarzan, he misses Kuzco at first, but then when he swings back, he saves Kuzco, but they get tangled up in a log branch, and the log branch breaking off, landing in the river, going down rapids, and then when it comes up to one part of the river, and Pacha's like, uh-oh, and Kuzco's behind the log branch. Don't tell me, we're about to go over a huge waterfall. Yup. Sharp rocks down the bottom, how he says it. And then Pacha's like, most likely, bring it on. And then they go down, and Kuzco, when going down the rapids and then going down the waterfall, seemed like Kuzco had no problem with it, because he was going, woohoo, booyahs, When they land into the giant river after the waterfall, they did survive at least. Well, Kuzco's unconscious. Pacha saves him from drowning, and at one point tries to give him mouth-to-mouth, and, why me? And Kuzco waking up right as he was doing that, and, Pacha making it clear to Kuzco that it was not a kiss. And Kuzco still being a jerk towards Pacha, and Pacha making it clear that, with how much of a jerk he's being, there will be no one left for him to be friends with, and so on, and there will be no one to feel sorry for him but just himself, and and still not wanting to take Kuzco back to the palace if he doesn't change his mind, and and Kuzco, at one point throwing a stone, and just what? I didn't throw it, someone's throwing stones. God. And when he goes to sleep, we see that he's shivering. Well, and because it's obvious that he's not used to being, because he's in llama form and how he has to sleep as a llama. And Pacha, with how much he has to put up with Kuzco for now, he wholeheartedly offers his wardrobe, to Kuzco as a sheet. And and the look on Kuzco's face, it seems like, because seems like something's coming into Kuzco, maybe? Well, we'll find out in a little bit, because, back at the palace, Yzma and Kronk, they are holding a funeral ceremony for Kuzco, and that's where right there they mention on, Yzma mentions on Kuzco turning 18, so, that's where right there it's confirmed that, how old Kuzco being on his birthday, so and Kronk being a crybaby, because, on the loss of Kuzco, and after that, all right, well, you ain't getting deader. Back to work. She's in this, sparkling wardrobe, and by this point, Yzma has taken over the kingdom, the palace, and now everybody is under her command, and everything themed to Yzma. Just, and Yzma's wondering, if Kuzco's actually dead, and what his last words were. And Kronk, he's nervous to tell, and, Yzma getting a little suspicious, and when Kronk says something, that triggers Yzma, and her realizing that, he's still alive! And Yzma, then telling Kronk that both of them have to go and find and finish off Kuzco, and if he talks, we're through. Now, let's move! And then we cut to Tipo, who wakes up from a bad dream. Dad, look out! And his mom checking on him, and Tipo explaining that in the dream he had is basically what actually happened to Pacha and Kuzco. With the jaguars going down a waterfall, it actually happened. And as for Chaka, well, she had dreamed on their dad kissing a llama, which did happen technically, but it didn't technically. And just, it's funny between Tipo and Chaka, their argument, and the mom, she handles it very well, And then the next morning, it seems like Kuzco is softening up some, and complimenting on Pacha's wardrobe that was made by his wife, and yeah. And it gets a little bit awkward. A bit of a silence, and when a frog croaks, and, well, Kuzco then says to Pacha that there can be another hill where he can put his summer house at, and right there, it seems as though that when Pacha realizes, thinking that, yeah, Kuzco's now changing his mind, and yeah, even when Pacha, looks at him, just, shake. Only if you mean it. And thus, Kuzco shakes hands, and when Kuzco gives back Pacha his getup and such, his hat and so on, thank you. No, thank you. The look on Kuzco's face, if anybody could not tell right there and then, just, okay, maybe he wasn't being for real. Yeah. And then when they're getting close to the palace and they have to cross a bridge, well, at one point, Pacha, part of the bridge breaks and he goes down, he's stuck on rope and asking Kuzco for help, but Kuzco, no, I don't think I will. He did not keep his word. He's still a jerk. God. And even when Pacha, shouts at Kuzco, we shook hands on it! The thing about shaking hands, you gotta have hands, how Kuzco says it. And then another part of the bridge breaks and he goes down. And yeah, Kuzco gets what he deserves when Pacha punches him. And, that's for going back on your promise. And just, gah. Each of them insulting one another. And then, yeah, they start to wrestle and such. But then, because of what they're doing, this causes the entire bridge to break apart. And thus they fall down. They're almost at the bottom and where they are almost about to hit the water. But thankfully, part of the cliff, it stopped them because it was growing small, And gators are emerging to make things worse. Then it occurs to Pacha that they have to work together to grab each other by the arms and to, climb. And that's what they do. And eventually, when they make their way in, they're spreading and such, and, well, because that's when Pacha then tells Kuzco to stretch his neck and for him to reach, a vine. That's what happens, but it's stuck in a tree, and because of this, it causes something from the tree to land on Kuzco. Freaking scorpions. And Kuzco his llama nostril gets stuck in a tiny hole, and also the part of the tree breaks, causing more scorpions to come down on Pacha's back, and he tries to kill them, by hitting his back on the wall of the cliff, and this causes some bats to wake up inside that tiny hole where Kuzco is, and the bats and with the bats, this causes them to fly back up, and yeah, but then part of the cliff breaks. Pacha was almost about to go down, but Kuzco, he saved him. And Pacha was surprised, and, you have heart, come on, not everybody is heartless. Yeah, that came out of Kuzco's mouth, so that shows that, Kuzco may not be heartless at all. Yeah, that's one of the good signs right there to come from Kuzco. So after that, well, now, they seem to be on good terms from now, and thus, them proceeding on back to the palace have to take another direction, so much for the bridge, and coming back to Yzma and Kronk. By this point, they're out in the jungle trying to find Kuzco and Pacha, and most notably Kuzco. And Yzma, she's on transportation provided by Kronk in this, long tent, I guess you could say, and it's like a backpack for Kronk, and yeah, poor Kronk and how he's sometimes treated by Yzma. And is it just me, or probably not me, of course, where, definitely, Yzma and Kronk are one of those villains/sidekicks right up there next to, say, Prince John, Sir Hiss, Captain Hook, Smee. You know where I'm going with this. I think it's obvious. Definitely is. And let's not forget, Jafar and Iago. Other good ones. Just, yeah, you get my point. Anyways, so, Yzma, getting tired and telling Kronk to pull over. And, because they could not find Kuzco so far. They went from every place and no sign of him. And the jungle is not very pleasant on Yzma. It's not kind to her, I should say. And getting stuck in mud, and these are my best shoes. I hate this jungle. And out of nowhere, these swarm of bees, yeah, they come in, they chase after Yzma. But the junk is very pleasant on Kronk, because, he finds a bird and so on. And then Yzma, She then encounters Bucky offering her an acorn. Get away from me! And Bucky interacting with Kronk. He can speak squirrel because he was a junior chipmunk, yeah. And when interacting with the squirrel, Bucky, squeaky, squeaker, squeak, squeak, squeak. And Yzma just like, why me? Just like Pacha, her too saying, why me? And that's when Kronk points out to Yzma that Bucky, he's had a rough day since yesterday when he encountered the talking llama. And when he says talking llama, oh yeah, Yzma knows that it's Kuzco and wants to know from Bucky on, what happened when Bucky encountered the talking llama, Kuzco. Bucky doesn't want to talk with Yzma, only will speak to Kronk and give him the information and such, and yeah, being chased by jaguars and, well, where the talking llama went. And yeah, it was funny when Bucky asked Kronk to tell Yzma to back up some, long distance. So yeah, so thus Bucky telling them exactly which way they went, and thus, yeah, they're going to find Kuzco, hopefully. Meanwhile, Kuzco's being carried by Pacha, and, by this point, they're hungry, and, they'll get a quick bite to eat, and then they'll be on their way to the palace. And thus, we then make our way to Motka's Meat Hut, if I'm pronouncing that name right, yeah. Home of the, so-on-so, just, yeah. And apparently, they're unable to get in at first because, yeah, no llamas allowed, and just, yeah, out of everything, yeah. And for Kuzco to be a llama, just, yeah. But they quickly find a way for them to get in, and, Kuzco being in disguise, pretending to be Pacha's wife. Kuzco's wearing Pacha's getup and his hat, and, yeah, pretending to be his wife, and, the fact that they're on their honeymoon, as Pacha says to the waitress. And the waitress was hilarious, of course, and the waitress saying to, yeah, the waitress right here, the waitress, as she's credited, being voiced by Patty Duchessis, however the last name's pronounced, but I'm sure you know, just, yeah. And again, you know me sometimes. It's funny when the waitress then says, bless you for coming out. And, yeah, so it's working. It's working for them, and definitely Kuzco. The disguise is working. Yeah, they're pulling it. And the food that they eat, well, it's giant pill bugs. Yeah, Kuzco finds this gross, and he has a word with the chef on, what he wants to specifically eat. Then at one point, Yzma and Kronk happen to be there, and, when Yzma mentions Kuzco and, I should have gotten rid of Kuzco earlier and such, yeah, Kronk realizes that Kuzco's life is in danger because of them, and Kronk asking Pacha for a utensil, because they don't have one. And Kronk is starting to recognize Pacha, wrestled you in high school, and just, yeah. It's not coming clear to Kronk on, whom it is, just, yeah. And seeing Kuzco interact with a not very patient chef, and the chef, the Irate chef, that's his name. I think, yeah, I did pronounce that right. The Irate chef, being voiced by the late Steve Susskind, I think I'm pronouncing his last name right, yeah, who's done a lot of voice work. In fact, he was in one of the Friday the 13th films, yeah, the one in 3D, that one. But some other voice work that he's done, well, I remember him best, not just for this, but also being the voice of Jerry in Monsters Incorporated with the 7 fingers. We are on in sevens. Yes, that's him. I also did see him in an episode of Frasier, so yeah. But yeah, he had done a lot of great acting, and even when it came to, say, voice acting. So yeah. So he's the voice of the Irish chef who's, not being very patient and is almost, up to his nerves and just, when he's stirring in the pot. And then Kronk making his way into the kitchen, having a word with the chef, because, Yzma is wondering if there's anything specific that she can eat. So, yeah, Yzma and Kuzco, they're in the same kind of situation. So, Kronk trying to hide Kuzco from Kronk and Yzma, Pacha. Am I still saying Pacha and Kronk? Again, don't get me started, just... Okay. Anyways, yeah, so when Kronk steps in, the chef has had it, I quit. There's no respect, and, you want to fix something? Fine, do it. And he puts the chef hat on Kronk, so now Kronk becomes the chef. And the situation that Kronk's in and the waitress, well, I mean, she doesn't care. She doesn't care if the chef has left and now Kronk's the chef, and all the orders that the waitress gives to Kronk and what Kronk says in return. Like, I can think most notably, basket of Grandma's breakfast. So funny. The fact that, there's no way he could have gotten it all, but kind of, but just, yeah. And then, when Kuzco in disguise asks the chef on what he wants, and when Yzma steps in, and they're going back and forth, going through the doors, and, the mentioning of no cheese, put cheese on it, and then, they, Jinx, Kuzco and Yzma saying, make my potatoes a salad, and, what? Yeah, Yzma doing that. Just, did I hear something? Just, when they make their way back, they're doing the same thing, like, looking at a menu, from Yzma to Kuzco, taking their drinks, and yeah. And then Pacha, turns to the waitress, pointing out Yzma, asking and such, and the waitress saying, don't worry, honey, we do that all the time. Yzma kind of noticed Kuzco, but didn't immediately recognize him, and then, out of nowhere, 1, 2, 3, 4, happy birthday from all of us to you. Yeah, basically, Pacha told the waitress that woman, being Yzma, that today's her birthday, and it's obvious. And then Kronk coming out, ha ha, it's your birthday? Well, Pacha informing Kuzco that, these two, whom are trying to kill Kuzco, and how Pacha describes them. And when Kuzco asks Pacha, was one of them a scary woman by all reasons, how he says it, and oh yeah. And he immediately realizes that it's Kronk and Yzma, and thinks that they're here to save him, because, well, Kuzco has no idea yet that they're here, specifically Yzma's here to capture and get rid of Kuzco. He doesn't realize that, and when he doesn't believe Pacha, and thinking that Pacha's just wanting to keep him stranded out in the jungle, and all of a sudden he doesn't want his help anymore. A part of Kuzco being a jerk comes back to him for a moment. And when he tells Kronk to get lost and beat it, he makes his way up to Yzma and Kronk. He was going to say something to them, but then, when he quickly hears Yzma saying on, killing him and such, and now Kuzco realizes, and when they disembark, even Kronk, he took a slice of cake. Also, Yzma was wearing a special birthday sombrero. Yeah, it's obvious. It's a birthday sombrero. When they disembark, trying to find Kuzco, well, Kuzco, realizing that he made a mistake, but it's too late. When he tries to find Pacha, he's gone. He's nowhere to be seen. He left that quickly. Even not getting back his wardrobe, his getup and such. And, well, thus, when Kuzco makes his way out of the location of the restaurant, and he sees the palace in view, yeah, by this point, he has nobody to help him. He's all by himself as of now. And where the movie started, yeah, where he's all alone, and it's thundering and raining, yeah. And, well, Kuzco once again narrating, and Kuzco as a llama, getting his other self as the narrator to just, hey, they know by now, just, go away. And that right there, that's the last we get of Kuzco being the narrator, if you realize that, yeah. And then, where we picked up, yeah, where we're at now, is in where the movie started, yes. Well, after that, we see each Yzma and Kronk sleeping for the night. Yzma has this big tent, while Kronk, poor Kronk, he's sleeping outside in the jungle with a teddy bear who is wearing the same hat as he does, and with a tiny sheet. Just a tiny tent, I guess you could say. But Kronk, must be no big deal for him, because he's sleeping like a baby, so yeah. And then Kronk at one point wakes up and realizes something about the peasant, referring to Pacha. The peasant at the diner. He didn't pay his check. He goes back to sleep, but then he wakes up again and then realizes that it's the same peasant who accidentally took Kuzco in a bag on his cart. Yes, and because of this, This will lead them to the village, and where they'll find Kuzco. And then when Kronk goes in to inform Yzma, waking her up, she wakes up immediately, has that cream on her face and those cucumbers, and I don't blame Kronk for his first reaction seeing Yzma, just, oh, this had better be good, and the cucumbers falling off. A scary face that Yzma has. Alright, but anyway, so then Kuzco, still alone, and by the next morning, he comes across this herd of llamas, and they immediately judge him, because, yeah, they just walk away. And Kuzco, well, because he's a llama, he has to eat in the way of a llama, eating grass, and that's what he does. And I love after he swallows the grass, and he's like, bleh. I don't know why. I just love how David Spade delivered that, where Kuzco goes, blah. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe to some of you as well. But anyways, then right after that, Kuzco hears a familiar voice talking, and he sees that Pacha's right there. He's talking with these llamas about Kuzco, and right there it shows that, yeah, even though Pacha left, he didn't actually ditch Kuzco. He was technically keeping an eye on him and knew that, obviously Kuzco would have come back to him, and yeah, so, and Kuzco trying to find a way to apologize, but for Pacha, no need, and, telling Kuzco, you're tired of being a llama? Yes! And thus, they dash their way back to the village this time to pick up some supplies, then they'll be on their way. And as they're making their way to the house, two of the villagers who are playing chess, yeah, they point out to Pacha that two relatives of his had passed by. And when describing them, yeah, this older woman and this big tall guy, and how would you describe the old woman? Scary beyond all reasons? Yeah, they know who they are. And, well, Yzma pretending to be, related to Pacha as well as Kronk. And Pacha's wife, not really sure on this. And when we see Kronk, he's having a great time having fun with Pacha's children. It's nice to see, because right there, Kronk's so good with children. Yeah, he's playing jump rope, and 89 monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. I think, yeah, because I'm quite good at doing my best at a Kronk impression, let alone Patrick Warburton, and you can let me know on that. But anyways, and Yzma, keeping it together and, smiling, and a creepy smile, and with her interacting with Chicha. I hope I am pronouncing her name right. Chicha? Probably, yeah. Even at one point, accidentally spilling a cup of coffee and, oops, silly me. I think it was tea, probably, but yeah. And, Chicha's like, no, I'll get it. And because she's pregnant, she has to, yeah. And while she's doing this, Yzma going up to Kronk and telling him, and as they do a bit of pat a cake, he's hiding something, and just, yeah, but I've got several monkeys to count, and just... And then, when Pacha does show up, getting his wife's attention to meet him out back, and just, well, excuse me, I think I left something in the oven, and then Yzma going back to Kronk, the jump rope, and, let's switch places. Kronk, it's time. Okay, then. Now she's, handling the jump ropes, and, yeah. And then Pacha explaining to his wife on what's happening, and they have to get back to the palace. And when Kuzco pops in, Chicha accidentally hits Kuzco with a pan, and that was him. Oops. Yeah. Well, because, yeah, Pacha immediately explaining on the Emperor turning into a llama and he can talk, so yeah, that was him. And Tipo having a little interaction with Yzma that Yzma reminds him of his great, and yeah, and Yzma's like, are you finished? Great aunt. And, well, Pacha and Kuzco, they finished their duty, their business, getting supplies, and Kuzco asks Pacha if it's a good idea to leave Yzma and Kronk with his family, and Pacha informing Kuzco that, oh, don't worry, they can handle themselves, and right there we can see that they can. Yeah, they easily take care of, stalling time and keeping Yzma and Kronk, holding them until, yeah, so... So yeah, the way they handle Yzma and Kronk, and especially Yzma, because they lock them in a closet, and, you know, they detach the doorknob, and Yzma threatening them, you know, tell us where the talking llama is, and we'll burn your house to the ground. Don't you mean or? And even, like, when Yzma orders Kronk to break down the door, but what Kronk says, and then Yzma taking it upon herself, and then Chicha telling her two kids to get ready what to do next. And thus, by putting the doorknob back on, opening it, Yzma makes a run for it. The Tipo and Chaka, they had waxed the floor. They use a beehive and feathers and with a wagon, and thus, Yzma being covered up in feathers and making her way, and now, like, you know, takes the place of a piñata. Just... it was funny. And Kronk saying goodbye to Pacha's family, you know, let's have another family reunion and such, And then, another hilarious moment in this movie is the chase, and with great catchy music to this, and, you know, we can see on a map, and even when we cut back to, say, most notably Yzma and Kronk, the arrows, they're there, and Yzma and Kronk, they don't know, they don't care, just like, you know, oh well, and and even when they make their way to a cliff, Pacha and Kuzco, Pacha uses a bow and arrow, they make their way, and and as for Kronk and Yzma, they're paragliding, because but then out of nowhere, they're struck by a thundercloud, you know, with a lightning bolt, and so Pacha and Kuzco, by this point, they've made their way. They're the first ones to arrive back at the palace, going through Yzma's laboratory, the wrong lever. Why does she even have that lever, asks Kuzco. They take the roller coaster, and they get in the laboratory getup of Kronk and Yzma's. Pacha's wearing Yzma's laboratory clothing, including the earrings and the hair, and Kuzco, he's in Kronk's getup, and it's too big for him. So, and they're trying to find the right potion, and when they come to a cabinet of potions, it has to be one of these. Lions, tigers, bears. Oh my. Wizard of Oz reference right there. Right there. See, and when Yzma, we hear her voice saying, oh my, looking for this? They made it. They made it back to the palace. And Kuzco asking, you know, it can't be. How did you get back here before us? And even Yzma is wondering that too. And even, you know, she turns to Kronk. And how did we get back, Kronk? Well, he got me. Pulling down the map, and by all accounts, it doesn't make sense. Cartoon logic, and they don't dwell on it. Just, And Kuzco, you know, asking Yzma, like, do you really want to get rid of me? And Yzma saying the exact same kind of words that Kuzco said to her when he fired her. And when Kronk pointed that out and such, just, And, you know, I can't believe this, says Kuzco. Then I suppose you weren't expecting this? She was pulling up her, you know, her skirt, and... but really, because pulling out a knife, because Pacha and Kuzco's reaction is, no, and, oh, okay, because when they say it's a knife, and Yzma ordering not Pacha, don't want to get the names mixed up. Yzma throwing the knife to Kronk and ordering them to finish them off. But Kronk put in that situation, is he actually going to do it? Well, of course not. By this point, we know what Kronk's like. And once again, Kronk's shoulder and devil and shoulder angel and devil pop up, and there's a few shots where Yzma, you know, seeing Kronk, and he's talking to them, but she can't see them, and neither can Pacha and Kuzco. Yzma turns to Pacha and Kuzco. They have no clue either, and that's when Yzma, she's had it with Kronk, and telling Kronk, you know, it's like I'm talking to a monkey. A really big, stupid monkey named Kronk. And you want to know something else? I never liked your spinach puffs. Never. And right there, her saying that she never liked his spinach puffs, oh, she went there. Poor Kronk. And, you know, the shoulder devil's like, that's it. She's going down. The staff and like a gun, just, you know, loading it. And then the shoulder angel's like, now, remember, from above, the witness shall receive so and so. And up there, you know, they're looking up, and candle, lantern, and such, you know, ceiling candles. I know the specific name of it, but I'm not going to dwell on it. You know. Anyway, so uses the knife. That'll work. Cutting the rope, and it lands on her, but it didn't do anything on her, because, yeah, it went through her, just, yeah. And Pacha and Kuzco, their reaction to that, and Krog, strange, that usually works. And so does this. Grabbing, pulling down a potion bottle that's actually a lever, a booby trap, and yeah, Krog goes down, and the Shoulder, Angel, and Devil, they grab hold of each other, and yeah, they go down. So now Pacha and Kuzco, they're up against Yzma, trying to get the potion, and even when Yzma accidentally hits the, cabinet of, shelf of, potions, knocking them all down, and yeah, they don't know which potion it is now, oh, clumsy me, which one, then she pulls a chain, an alarm, and, better hurry, I'm expecting some company, and thus we see some of the palace guards, and Yzma telling them, kill them, they've murdered the Emperor, and thus they charge after them. Kuzco's trying to tell them that it's him, but they're not listening, because they're too busy shouting, because, ah! And thus, they take all the potions, and there's a shelf where, Pacha knocks over, and the potions, they hit on the guards, and they turn into animals. One being a cow, an octopus, a warthog, gorilla, ostrich, and a lizard. And I think that's all of them, yeah. And the one that's a cow, he's like, hey, I've been turned into a cow. Can I go home? You're excused. Anyone else? No, we're good. Get them! And thus, yeah, they chase after Pacha and Kuzco. And by drinking some of the potions, well, one by one, Kuzco turns into a turtle, turns into a tiny bird, then turns into a whale. And when he turns into a whale, luckily for him, they land in water, and Yzma telling them to quickly drain the canals, and when Pacha gives him the next potion, he turns back into a llama. Yay, I'm a llama again! Wait, and, well, by now he'd be used to a llama, but still, he's not a human again. And then, yeah, when the canals are drained, and, by the way, because the outside of Kuzco's palace, it's his face, and the canal's being drained, going through his nostrils. And they're still alive, they're holding on, and and Yzma ordering the guards to go after them, and the lizard, who's, I guess, the main one, in command, and telling them, come on, man, nobody lives forever! And thus they slide down, but they don't get them. I wouldn't say they fall to their deaths, I guess they're okay, but we don't see them again. That's the last we see of them, but I guess presumably they would be okay, right? But anyways, so yeah, then Yzma taking it upon herself this time, again, and going down using a string of rope or something, and just going crazy like, ah! And then, yeah, only 2 potions are left. One of them has to be the one where he'll turn back into a human, but when Yzma steps in, yeah, and when Kuzco and Yzma, they tumble and such, and they hit one of the potions, poof, a little explosion. By the way, did anybody realize that Pacha at one point did not have his hat on, but then he did? Anyways. So yeah, one of the potions, exploded, and, well, presumably, yeah, it's Yzma who took one of those potions, and with an evil, sinister laugh, and with scary eyes in the mouth, well, what she turned into was a tiny, cute cat. Yes, this is where we finally see Yzma as a cat. And, of course, if it's not obvious, yeah, the whole thing on Yzma turning into a cat, well, obviously, it's a nod to Eartha Kitt when she was the 3rd actress to portray Catwoman in the 60s Batman show. It's so obvious, right? And there's no doubt that Eartha Kitt got a good laugh at that, got a good kick on the joke, obviously. So yeah. So with that, and well, 1 potion left, and yeah, it's the one that will turn him back to human. But Yzma, now a cat, scratching all over Kuzco's face, and Pacha tries to help out Kuzco, but when Yzma goes after him, causes Pacha to fall, but he holds on for dear life, and the potion is not in his hands anymore, and where'd it go? Looking for this? Is that my voice? Is that my voice? Oh well, and I'm not going to drop it, you fool. I am going to drink it, and once I turn back into my beautiful self, I'm going to kill you. And then when she tries to open the bottle, like, yeah, it's not working when, like, just, yeah. And then she goes for it, and then presumably she's gonna fall to her death, but yeah. And the vial, yeah, that's how they call it, the vial. It's up top and, you know, one part of the face of Kuzco outside the palace. He's trying to reach for it, but between that and Pacha unable to hold on and just, yeah, eventually, Kuzco, he gives up trying to get the vial and saves Pacha, rightfully so. But the vial, it does proceed to fall. And when we cut back to Yzma, well, she's still falling, she's near to the floor, but out of nowhere, and another hilarious moment in The Emperor's New Groove, well, a trampoline seller had shown up and had set up a trampoline, and this one palace guard telling him, for the last time, we did not order a giant trampoline. You know, pal, you could have told me that right before I set it up, but yeah, perfect timing on placing that, because yeah, Yzma coming down, she hits the trampoline, then flies back into the air, and the potion gets in her hands, but she hits one part of the palace, and yeah, the vial is out of her hands, and it's right there, and, you know, the vial. You thinking what I'm thinking? Just like what they did when, in the situation that they were in with the cliff, yeah, teamwork, just, yeah, climbing, and yeah. But Yzma still beats to them. I win. But then, Kronk pops out, slams Yzma with the hatch he opens, and now Pacha and Kuzco, they have the vial in their hands, and Kronk, you know, he's like, what are the odds, what, you know, this trapdoor led me, however he says it. And thus, you know, everything's good now, Yzma's defeated, and Kuzco about to drink the potion. See you on the other side. And yeah. And after that, well, we then see Kuzco back in his emperor getup and with his crown, and he's talking things out with the old man, apologizing to the old man for having him be thrown out of the window, but the old man assuring Kuzco not to, you know, take it out on himself, just, you know, not to stress him out or anything, just, you know, and telling him that it's okay. The apology is not necessary. And the old man pointing out to Kuzco, hey, this isn't the first time I've been thrown out of the window, just, yeah. It's funny. So, nice to see that, yeah, the old man and Kuzco, they're on good terms. And yeah, Kuzco, he's become a much better emperor. And when he notices Pacha right where the model is, you know, of Pacha's village, Kuzco pointing out to Pacha that he lied to Kuzco, because the whole thing of, you know, a part of the hill where the sun hits and they're singing, he didn't hear any singing. And addressing Pacha that he'll put his summer house somewhere else. Yeah. But Pacha then telling Kuzco that there is one part of the hill right beside their house where, yeah, there is some singing and such, and with the sunlight, you know. And, well, the aftermath and the epilogue, yeah, we see that Kuzco technically has his own vacation. Like, he didn't actually build Kuzcotopia. No, he just, you know, is there at their village, you know, for vacation and such, and the fact that they have their own pool, technically, you know, a giant river, and there's a waterfall, yeah, and he built his very own hut, you know, for his vacation house, you know, summer house, and Kuzco, you know, coming out in his swim trunks, ha, boom, baby, and Pacha doing the same thing, ha, boom, baby, and a rendition of Perfect World, and yeah. And Kuzco, he received his own wardrobe like Pacha's, you know, that was made by Pacha's wife. And by this point, they had their third child, yeah. And I guess you'd say, like, when Kuzco received his own wardrobe, and the fact that it has a llama to it, I would say, like, probably, in some way, he's been accepted in Pacha's family, I guess. And even when Kuzco and Chicha, they went for a hug, just, yeah. And all of the villagers come together, finishing up the song, just, you know, yeah. And then, one last thing we get is seeing Kronk and Tipo and Chacha and these other group of kids, the junior chipmunks, and Bucky is there too. You know, did you eat my acorn? Squeak, squeak, squeak. And Yzma, who's still a cat, is a part of the junior chipmunks as well. And all of them holding up an acorn, and, you know, Yzma, you know, squeaking, I'm so proud of you guys, and boom, The end, and yeah. And the other song number that we get during the end credits, well, that of course being, because not right here, because, it's Perfect World, which was sung by Tom Jones, and the song that Sting sings at the end credits, which did get Oscar nominated, My Funny Friend and Me. Yeah, so, and a couple of other songs, which most of them they've made their way to the soundtrack. Like Yzma had a few song numbers of her own and such, and Yzma's her own version of Perfect World. So, and the fact that Eartha Kitt, who, a good singing voice, of course, being the singing voice of Yzma. So yeah. But I think for a lot of us, when we would think of Yzma and having her own songs, well, we would think of Yzmopolis from The Emperor's New School. And I love that, even as of now, learning about this, of course, that, a song from The Emperor's New School made its way to one of those Disney Cruise Line shows. If you know what I'm talking about, that of course being Villains Tonight, Yzma and Kronk being a part of that show, and when it comes to them, Yzma singing Yzmopolis. I love that. That's so amazing, because, I'm pretty sure Yzmopolis is a very popular song, and, the well-known song of Yzma. So yeah, Yzmopolis, my metropolis, my favorite place to be. Just overall great way to end off The Emperor's New Groove. And by the way, a quick mentioning on some of the deleted scenes, because first off, the ones that I can think of, I'm just naming a few. Right after Pacha and the llama and such, they disembark from the palace, and after Kronk, saying, I hope that doesn't come back to haunt me. Well, Pacha and the llama, they come across, and they're in the middle of this, woodcraft version of their village, and apparently the guards / the soldiers of the palace, they're rehearsing and practicing on how they're going to destroy the village. Yeah, so, and a little bit of animation of those guards charging would be used when they're summoned by Yzma. Kill them, they've murdered the Emperor. I recognize that animation of those guards. Yeah. And another one that I can think of as well. Well, the alternate ending to The Emperor's New Groove. Well, because originally, Kuzco ended up building Kuzcotopia and inviting all of those in the village to have some fun in Kuzcotopia. Even some of those guards who turned into animals, from ostrich, octopus, they were there too. Yeah, even when Kronk popped up at the very end, well, him being the chef and his shoulder angel and devil popped up, and they got the last lines of that alternate ending. However, Sting, he found out about this this version of this movie's ending, and he wrote a note / letter to Disney that, what the heck are you thinking? This won't do. And yeah, it did occur to them that, Kuzco's still building his summer house, Kuzcotopia. Yeah, so that's when they changed the ending, and satisfying Sting. And I think, Sting somehow knew, which, that would have not been a pretty good ending. And on Kuzco's part, up at the very end, and when he's become a much better emperor, it's obvious. But so I wanted to mention on those deleted scenes. But overall, the actual ending to The Emperor's New Groove, it was perfect. A great and funny way to end off. The Emperor's New Groove. Just what more do I have to say by this point? It's, without a doubt, a Disney animated feature gem from the early 2000s. Everything about it, from beginning to end, is perfect. Practically perfect in every way, as Mary Poppins would say. The story, the cast of characters, the songs, the amazing animation to it, the slapstick, the hilarious moments here and there, the funny moments and sequences, and moments where, they're quite emotional and, having heart to it. The climax and the personalities from these characters, just, and the music and score, everything about The Emperor's New Groove is so memorable. We all love it. Yeah. Groove. And I'm giving The Emperor's New Groove, is it not obvious? Yeah. 10 out of 10 stars. Yes. 10 out of 10 stars for The Emperor's New Groove. And what about you guys? What did you think of The Emperor's New Groove itself? What are your fondest memories when watching The Emperor's New Groove? Did you own a VHS copy, a DVD copy? Do you remember playing the bonus features, the games, and, do you remember watching The Emperor's New School, Kronk's New Groove? Who are some of your favorite characters, your favorite moments, and your favorite jokes, and just, yeah, your favorite songs? Need I go on? Just, yeah. Overall, what do you think of The Emperor's New Groove itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of The Emperor's New Groove. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned because, well, is it not obvious what I'm reviewing next? Yeah, because, well, our beloved Kronk, he would get his own groove in his own movie, you know? You know what's next. Yeah, look forward to that. And yeah, again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out. Ha! Boom, baby!